Storm, thanks for joining, and for everyone on Facebook that's joining us. I appreciate it. Obviously, I'm Ryan Berns. This is my new project that I'm really focused on, the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. I feel so fortunate that lacrosse has been a part of my life. I truly feel like it's given me a foundation to be successful, not only with work, but with my family, my health, all my relationships. And I want
Yeah.
to give back. I want to make sure that the younger generations have the same experience I had, and also can have some sort of transparent way to talk with people that are further down the life path, if you will. And I think this is a great way to get this. And Storm, I bumped across you on Instagram. You're the head of KenyaLax, and it seems like you run a sports business as well. Can you give us all a little bit of insight, maybe of who you are and how you got involved in lacrosse in the first place, even?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I do technically run my own company, but I'm never here. I'm always in Kenya, so that sort of gets put on the back burner a bit. But so I was introduced to lacrosse when I was at school, at my boarding school in the UK from the age of 11. I used to play, all day, every day, and it was like my number one sport until I was also a 3-day event rider. So I was having to try and sort of mix both of those, which was pretty difficult when obviously games at weekends and everything like that. But then when I left school, I was over in Australia for a few years. So coached the New South Wales junior team, and then I was playing for senior New South Wales. I'm actually half Australian, so that helped a bit as well. But it wasn't really until I came back to the UK after my few years out after school that I started playing for Wales, because I was at university in Wales. So through the education, I was allowed to then represent Wales after a number of years. So that was back in 2001 until around 2013. I was playing for senior Wales. During that time, I was also manager at the Junior World Cup 2007, and then head coach for the Welsh team 2011 and 15, and then senior skills coach 2014 and 15, I think it was. So I've been involved with international sport for quite a long time in sort of all different capacities, player, coach, manager, which has been brilliant. I got involved with Kenya due to a charity that I was volunteering for back in 2007. It was predominantly for boys, and it was set up by someone that was just really facilitating football and rugby within schools in Western Kenya, where they didn't have that much financial support, and there wasn't, they didn't really have playing kits. So the boys would be running around without shoes, just in random sort of shorts and no tops, blah, blah, blah. So we used to like fly out kits. But when I used to go over there, I used to see that there was, it's very male dominant over in Kenya, and there's no free schooling. And many of the families that we used to deal with were, really, really poor, that I don't think until you go to Kenya you can quite comprehend how poor these families are. So if it was a case of sending one kid to school, the boys would always go to school. So I thought, okay, hang on a minute, let's just try and get something going for girls as well. So I thought, because I was playing international sport at the time, and all my friends were either playing for England, Scotland, Wales, or they were coaches at high schools, I had a lot of pulling power to get donated sticks and to get my friends to come out and volunteer and coach. So it really was just a case of flying out a couple of times a year and, delivering sticks to the schools where we had the football and rugby for the girls. I mean, it sounds a bit sexist, but it really was for the girls, just first and foremost, because the boys had everything. So I was like, hang on a minute, let's just let these girls have a good time. So that's what I was doing. And because at that moment in time I was still playing for Wales and coaching junior Wales, it didn't cross my radar to set up a national team. Even being heavily involved with the Welsh setup, it's hard enough in the Western world with dealing with, players, kids, schools, parents, trying to sort of, get enough training time, trying to, fundraise, trying to organize this, that, and the other. So I was like, there's no way I'm planning on doing this in Africa. I sort of said that. And then at the 2015 World Cup in Scotland, I was, that was my last World Cup with the Welsh team. And I knew that I was going to finish after that, because I've been involved with, international sport for 15 years at that stage. And as brilliant as it is, you do miss every free weekend, every family holiday, every wedding. I mean, I probably missed the first 17 school friends' weddings because of lacrosse. And I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to finish this World Cup. We'll go into the closing ceremony tonight. I'll fly home tomorrow, done, dusted, finished. And then, I don't know, someone said something in the closing speech. I think it was Lorna Clark must have said something saying how incredible it was that we had a new team from Colombia, and how we were trying, you know, how the world were trying to get more teams on board, and not just, you know, from, you know, the Western world. We were just trying to get loads of different teams at part of the World Cup. And so I went home and thought, okay, well, maybe it would be quite a fun, I did actually think it would be fun, quite a fun and cool idea to try and get the first African team to Canada 2019. And with my sort of foot in the door in Kenya, that was a no-brainer, it was going to be Kenya. So I put that on Facebook, and here we are today, because the next day I had so many likes, shares, comments, and I couldn't retract what I was saying, and I was just oh, maybe I should. And I don't think back then you could even delete a comment, a status from Facebook, so I really was stuck. And you know, I've been dealing, that was 2015, so I'd been going in and out of Kenya for 7 years already, so I knew a lot of the trials and tribulations working in Africa and in Kenya, and with kids, and especially the kids from the western part of the country who are, you know, some of them are living in a 2-bedroom mud shack with 7, 8, 9 family members, and really not living off much food. A lot of it is just, you know, hot cups of tea if there's no meals. And a lot of them are at boarding school, because in Kenya you don't get to choose where you go to school. Depending on your primary school results, the government can just put you anywhere. So, you know, we have kids in Nairobi who are at school 9 hours west, and they can't always afford even the bus ticket. So, you know, to an outsider, it's like, well, why are you all at boarding school when it's more expensive? But like, you have no choice. So so I knew that it was going to be difficult, but I mean, I can't even begin. I'll try and explain how difficult it was, but it was an absolute horror show. And I think from social media during the World Cup and like running up to it, people saw, you know, the kids just never stopped dancing and smiling. They're the happiest, most sort of charismatic and fun group of individuals you'll ever meet. You know, they have everything, a lot of them, not all of them, but 80% of them have, you know, everything going against them in terms of their family life, their upbringing, their, you know, their financial situation. Some of our kids have never owned school jumpers or shoes or anything, and they get chucked out of school for school fees. And but yeah, they'll never complain. You know, they'll be at home with malaria for 7 weeks because they're just waiting till a lacrosse camp, because they can't afford, there's no free healthcare in Kenya. And if their parents don't have jobs, which most don't, and if they do in the West, you're averaging like $80 a month. For a family of 10, it's not rocket science to sort of show that finding $80, $100 for malaria treatment is just not on their radar.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'd get to camp and I would suddenly be like, why are all these kids just like dropping like flies with malaria? And it wasn't because they were getting it at camp, it's because they were just coming to camp with it, you know. So we're pretty pally with the hospital next door. Luckily, where our camp is, there is a hospital 200 meters down the road. So yeah, I mean, it sort of helped us out a bit. But, you know, it was really tricky in terms of funding the whole thing. You know, we didn't have one player that could contribute $10 to a whole year's worth of training. We'd have to pay for them to get from their doorstep to camp all their food, all their accommodation, their toothbrush, their you know, toothpaste, their shoes, their toiletries, I mean, everything, spending money for when they, you know, traveling home, pocket money. Then we would come across some difficulty with government and bribes, and they wouldn't let us train unless we paid them, which stopped our training camp in February last year, which was supposed to be our final trials. So they stopped that because I wouldn't pay an extortionate amount of money, which was not necessary. You don't have to have government officials at random training camps. But so they stopped that, which then really messed up our timescale for applying for passports, because we hadn't even selected the team and passports take forever because a lot of the kids don't have the right documents for a passport. Many of them, like their birth certificates were incorrect. Then their parents' ID didn't have ID cards, and for their parents to go and get ID cards, we need to then bus them to town and get this, that, and the other. And it was just like a car crash of one thing after the next. And I mean, one kid, she got sent back to get a new birth certificate 4 times because the government kept issuing fake birth certificates. And then the country ran out of birth certificate paper for 3 weeks. I mean, you can't actually even really write this, but and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And you know, one family, I can't really begrudge them, but the money we have to send for them to apply online for the passport, there's one section of the passport, they spent that money on food because you know, if it's a case of that or food, then, you know, and they know that their kid has to get a passport, so I would just have to send a second batch of money. And, you know, it carried on like that, and it did get worse and worse and worse. And I mean, we only got the green light to go on the Friday, and we left on the Monday morning. In terms of visas only came on the Friday afternoon. And we had what, $40,000 of non-refundable flights, just counting on the fact that we were going to get our visas by 5 o'clock on Friday. We then had issues with our accommodation because we were flying out 10 days early to play practice games, because some of our kids had only ever played 2 games in their lives, and they were against our boys team.
Wow.
The girls who played the most had played Uganda 3 times, and then the boys team twice, so 5 games max for our top players, right? So we were flying out early, but the accommodation, we were going to stay at a university, and we had planned this all since January. Everything was signed, sealed, delivered. And then on the Friday, the same day I was waiting, panicking for these visas, I got an email saying that they couldn't accommodate us anymore. And I was like, well, we're flying on Monday and we have no money. You can't just, it's not like when I was in the Welsh team or any other national team, if suddenly expenses occur, your parents just have to pay, or you have to pay. So you just have to find the money, end of story.
Yeah.
And, you know, accommodating 28 people for 10 days is like 10 grand. So that was a slight panic, but actually I wasn't as panicked about that as the visas. But then we actually landed on our feet, and we got in touch with a very kind lady who's doing a documentary on us. She actually happened to be able to house us, and she lived 30 minutes from the World Cup on an island, which was amazing, but none of our kids can swim, so there we are, like, staying on this incredible house on an island. And as we get to the jetty, and I'm like, right, who can swim here? And none of them put their hands up, they just laugh. And I'm just like, oh my God, life jackets, life jackets, life jackets. So we stayed there, and then that was for the first 5 days. And the last 5, we stayed at the house from Cheaper by the Dozen 2. I don't know if you've seen that film, but you need to see it. There's a monster house, and luckily they very kindly volunteered to accommodate us and feed us. And I mean, it was a ridiculous 10 days, to be fair. So we did actually land on our feet. And then we played all our practice games, which was really good. Again, like, one of the girls was chatting to her opponent saying, oh my God, you're the first girls team I've ever played. And I'm just like, I mean, you couldn't really write it, but, you know, we got to the World Cup, and not only were the girls, the sort of KenyaLax were everywhere over social media, over all of US Lacrosse's sort of magazine, like online, you know, US Lacrosse Online, and we're all in the press and all the papers around Canada and Peterborough. And then, you know, then they actually rocked up and they could play some game. They played, and they won 3 out of 7 games, and 8 games, sorry. We kept Germany to 6-all until the dying minutes. We lost 6-7. Germany finished 8th in the world. So we had, I mean, the girls did really well, and one of our players finished 13th highest point scorer, and the top 12 were all based in America, and she's only played 9 months. So you can imagine, you know, we had another girl that was number 17. We had our goalie, our seconds goalie, actually. Our goalie got injured game 2 at the end of the 3rd quarter, so I had to chuck in this other girl who was always going to be our backup goalie. But as the quarter finished, I was like, come here, Glad, come here. She's like, oh, coach, I'm playing so badly. Can I play attack? I was like, no, I think you'll be going in goal right now. So she was like, no. Anyway, so we chucked her in goal. 4 games in, she was number 1 goalkeeper in the world, her stats.
Wow.
So, like, all these just crazy things were happening, crazy. And then we obviously had the situation with our cleats that went viral, the fact that Israel jumped in and helped us with our cleats. I mean, we did actually have cleats, which the world thinks we rocked up to a World Cup without cleats. We did have cleats, but then the company, I will not name them, but we got sent the wrong sizes. And actually by then it was all right to play on 3G in our Nike trainers, which actually someone else went and bought us. I mean, the girls went home with about 5 extra pairs of shoes. But so we did actually have cleats, but wrong sizes, but the weather had been fine. But the one day we played Israel, it was torrential rain, and the girls were obviously sliding all over the shop. And then Israel had a dinner that night and, you know, mentioned the fact that we weren't wearing cleats. And then the coach called, one of the dads, sorry, called me saying, is it true that you don't have cleats? And I was like, yeah, well, this is a story. So he told me to give him the girl sizes. The very next day he presented the girls all with a pair of brand new cleats, which was incredible. And it did actually go viral. I mean, it went on House of Highlights, which on Instagram, and I think 2.3 million people have seen the video. And then ESPN retweeted it and 800,000 have seen it. So, I mean, it would have been great if it was us playing and scoring goals, but, you know, you take what you can get. And now lots of people know Kenya Lacrosse because of that, and Israel. So, you know, it was all great.
Well, let me ask you this. What are you trying to bring the girls, and I know at this point you're coaching the boys as well, what are you trying to take to those kids? What's your goal?
Well, initially, my goal was if I got 18 kids on the plane, it meant that 18 kids were in school because it's a school-based program. So if they're at home because of school fees or malaria or typhoid or whatever, they can't play lacrosse. So, you know, my biggest feat was the fact that it meant we had 18 girls in education and healthy and everything else like that. And off the back of the World Cup, because we had quite a lot of support going in, because people would know, either basically my friends and family, whenever a kid was out of school for the school fees, someone would jump in and be like, okay, Storm, I'll pay for that kid. I'll do this. I think my mum has paid for about 8 of them alone. And then we had a really generous sponsor from the Canadian team that post World Cup has just supported every kid that was still in school when we got back. So I think 5 of the girls had already left school. We had you know, how many do we have left? 12, 13 that were still in school. And yeah, this guy has really helped. And so, I mean, they're all finishing school, end of story. So that's, you know, that's the main thing. You know, I wanted to go to Canada. I knew that the girls could perform well, but then they're not in a environment where it's not conducive to training or playing. Like the boarding schools, they get up at 4 a.m. They start school at 4:30. They're in lessons. So they get up, actually, some of them get up at 3 because they need to go and get their bucket of water for the shower and they want to be the first in the shower. So you know, they're starting school at 4:30. I can't even tell you what their meals are like or not like. Sometimes every other day for one school, it's just a cup of tea. And then their lunch is just rice with beans, and then dinner's ugali, which is maize with cabbage, and they're on rotation. That's it. They're just on that. I mean, it's horrendous. So it's not like, you know, they're snacking and they're on protein shakes, protein bars, and mum can bring them this, and their PE teacher is doing a training program with them, and they can get up early and they can do wall ball, because in Kenya, it's all about education. Hence why ridiculously they have to go, you know, 13, 14-hour days at school. They finish at like 10 p.m. and then they do it all again. I don't understand how they're still sort of standing. I mean, even at our training camps, I remember, I think it was our Easter training camp, a couple of our girls were just so exhausted. I was like, hang on a minute, why are you guys like, I know you're tired because we're training, pushing you hard, but it transpires that they were getting up at 4 a.m. every day to do 2 hours work before our training camp started. And I was like, no, this is not happening. You know, we're like 6, 7, 8 years behind every other nation. We're hardly ever allowed to see you. When you're at training, we are training 100%, and you can't train 100% if you're getting up at 4. But I understand that if you don't have an education in Kenya, you're really stuck. So I was in a sort of catch-22. So by the end of it, we would have to incorporate study time in our training schedule. Like, I can't imagine the US team, high school kids, doing their studies at a national camp with Kelly. And you know, I mean, it was so ridiculous, but you have to sort of try and weigh up what's more important. And they would have snuck up out of bed early anyway. Like, they're used to getting up at 3, whatever. To them, they'll just do it. So I was just trying to make it a bit easier for them. But my point is, you know, if they had trained like the Welsh team train, or, you know, the English team train, where they get good night's sleep, they get, you know, a good 2,000 calories plus a day. They have all the training facilities in the world. They have ice baths. I mean, they have baths, they have hot water, they have recovery leggings, they have a coach. I mean, these kids, the fact that they won 3 games and then we lost, as I said, to Germany by 1, and then we lost our last game to Israel by 1. The irony that we nearly beat them when they bought us the cleats that would have been quite fun, but we didn't. So that was that.
That's amazing. And what comes up for me is the fact that first of all, the idea that you wrote a goal out there in Facebook, and that holds you accountable to going through it no matter what's happened. You faced so many different challenges, time after time after time after time.
Yeah, there's a lot that I can't really say, otherwise I won't be allowed back in Kenya. But yeah, there's some, like, it was pretty horrendous. It wasn't that fun. It wasn't that much fun.
I can only imagine just from some of the books I've been reading in terms of what's going on in
Mm,
Africa that,
mm,
that they're facing. It definitely makes me feel fortunate for where I
mm.
am, and to see people like you giving back and being able to be an advocate for them. The girls,
Yeah,
the girls. I think girls all over. My sister played lacrosse, and kind of we just went back and forth in the backyard for such a long time, and
yeah,
she's extremely successful. And I have to think that that opportunity was a really big part of her life, and for you
yeah,
to be able to bring that to these girls as well, to have the confidence to be able to do something so big and go to a new place. Because in one of your other videos, you said that these girls have never really gone out of their town. They probably never hopped on a plane. They were playing in the
oh, they've
back.
never been on a plane. They've never, like, but 80% of Kenya have never been on a plane. Like, lots of them had never been to Nairobi until we went for the visas. I mean, yeah, hence why it was such a nightmare getting every single player and half our management passports, because yeah, they would never have got on a plane. And I'm pretty sure out of the 18, maybe only 2 would ever get on a plane again.
Wow.
One might actually be getting a engineering scholarship to the States, which we're trying to sort out at the moment. Like, these girls are smart. Like, we've got this, there's one school that 4 of our girls came from. It's top 10 academics in Kenya, which is amazing. And their schooling system is absolutely mind-blowingly barbaric. But anyway, so they went to the World Cup, and they were training pretty hard, and they left Kenya for what, 3.5 weeks, and then they went back, did their exams, and they all got A's. And you can't literally get an A in Kenya for your high school exams, because you have to do all 8-10 subjects, and you get examined on things that you learned 4 years ago. So you're learning 8-10 subjects 4 years. Now in the UK, it's 3 subjects, 2 years, done. And these kids, not only were they just playing in a World Cup, and these were 3-4 of our best, most athletic kids, really successful on the pitch, and actually they're all basketball players. Lacrosse isn't their number one sport.
Really?
The one that we're hoping to get engineering over in America was our captain, but she's just desperate to play in the women's NBA. Like, she's amazing. And to think that she captained the first African team, and she got home, got an A in overall A in her exams, and that's her second sport. I mean, it sums her up. These kids is just, I mean, they're just born into the wrong country. If they were in England or they're in the States, they would be absolutely flying in a Div 1 uni, just flying. But I mean, they're stuck, and that's
Yeah.
what's killer. And I think that's why, especially now at the moment with COVID, and the situation over there is just beyond horrendous. If it wasn't bad before, it is horrendous. And so at the moment, all our funds, which we don't have any funds really, because it's only through donations. As I said, it's not like our kids are paying membership or anything. Everything they wear is donated, or we've had to fundraise for, and so at the moment we're just trying to make sure that they have food. And some have been chucked out of their house. This is our boys as well. Some of our boys were chucked out of their houses because the government just bulldozed the slums they were in for development, and there's nothing you can do. They're now out of school till January, so that's 10 months out of school. No laptops, no iPads, no Kindles, no homeschooling, no Zoom, no nothing, no electronics, nothing. And lots of them weren't allowed to take their books home either. So they're just, yeah. So we partnered with a charity over there that's put together an educational manual, which is $12.
Yeah, what's the support that? I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, it's just my friend's got a foundation over there that helps. Initially, it was sort of 3 orphanages in Nairobi, and doing food drives and sanitary product drives, and trying to help them with their education, etc., etc. And obviously, they didn't plan for COVID to happen, or to have to even sort of, that coming to the table has really put a spanner in the works, because now these kids need even more than normal, because there's no spot, people aren't donating as much, and there's more kids coming into the orphanage. And so I just reached out to him. Well, as soon as I saw that they were doing a book, I was like, right, I need to get some of these for our kids. and their siblings and their classmates and one of my boys lives with between 15 and 25 family members in Western Kenya with his granny. His mother's not around, his father is a doctor but is elsewhere. And so when I messaged our boys group, because lots of them have phones or their parents' phones or we bought them phones, and I was like, who has kids of this siblings of this age, so I can try and get them books as well. So I did a drive for this book. It was actually my birthday on Friday, so I did a sort of Facebook, like, if anyone wants to support, if anyone basically wants to buy me a present, then donate to this cause. And I think we're going to have about $3,500. So we've got sort of 300, yeah. So it's amazing. And, we did a campaign last month for the girls for sanitary products. And then I've done campaigns for food drives, and the kids that do have phones, I need to send them phone credit so that I set up WhatsApp academic groups for all the boys and girls in their, final year of school or final 2 years. And lots of my friends are like super smart. I'm not part of the WhatsApp groups in terms of helping them with their issues. But so, we've got Oxbridge graduates, we've got English teachers, we've got, so we've got all the science and math and English covered on these WhatsApp groups. But then the kids need phone credit for their phones. So we're sending them out phone credit. And it's just never ending. It's never ending. We've had 3 with pneumonia and 2 with malaria in the last 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to get the boys to Ireland next year. And it's going to be a struggle, because at this moment in time, any money we have, if the kids need it now, they need it now. Yeah. As much as I love lacrosse, 2 weeks in Ireland will be great for them, but they need to be eating, they need to be safe, they need to be healthy, they need to be going back to school in January, which I guarantee 80% of our kids won't be able to afford to get back to school in January, because their parents, if they had a job, which is rare, they haven't had one for the last however many months. So yeah, there's quite a few things, and not much of it is actually that lacrosse related at the moment. But
that's the biggest thing, is you're able to hit on so many different parts of life because of this goal for lacrosse, passion for lacrosse. Mm-hmm. And then I truly see you as a leader, because you create this goal, and then all of a sudden you've got all these different people surrounding you and helping the kids out, whether it's fundraising, whether it's getting your friends that are in academia to be in the WhatsApp groups, whether it's, who else is a part of your team? Is it just you and as the spearhead, and then everyone just reaches out to you? Or how do you manage all of these?
I have a lot of great friends that help. Well, I don't sleep, so that helps. I'm a bit of an insomniac, so that really does help. And dealing with Kenya, America, Australia, the time difference, my phone is just 24, just going. We do take out volunteers. So whenever I've gone on trips, I take out friends, or people have reached out saying, can I come and help coach or just help? And whenever they come out, automatically they're just hooked, because these kids are so addictive. So that's been really great. So there's been loads of people that have constantly been, let us know if you need anything, or, reposting, retweeting, and their friends have donated. And then we had a manager for the Girls World Cup, and she was great. And hopefully she'll be helping with the boys. But day to day, 100% of the time, it obviously is just me. And then I have some really incredible people as and when, and, calling upon to try and delegate or offload something before I have a personal meltdown. I won't. But yeah, it's just one thing after the next. But I think the more that comes to the table, the more challenges they go through. I used to get really overwhelmed by it and was like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? How are we going to pay for all the malaria treatments, when that wasn't even on our budget, because we didn't really anticipate that everyone would just be, I think 9 of the girls had malaria before we went to Canada, within the last 3 months, a couple of typhoids and stuff like that. But now I actually just see it as a challenge. I'm like, come on then, what's next? Because there's no other option. Mm-hmm. And the girls, the kids don't really, not through fault of their families, but they don't have people backing them. They don't have, Kenya's really corrupt. So it's just a bit depressing that all the help that our kids are getting are from friends or absolute strangers from around the world. We've had one girl that's still in kindergarten that has just raised $1,300.
Wow.
Another girl who saw us at the World Cup, she didn't even play against us. She wasn't playing. She's just raised 2,500. And we have lots of people that our girls played against, like in the Israel team or Germany. Another girl in the German team, like Lottie, there's two actually, Lottie and Bella, they're constantly supporting. And when we did a sponsorship drive to sponsor a player, sponsor their kit back for the last World Cup for the girls, some of those sponsors are still involved. So if they know that their kid's ill, or they know that they're, everyone's going through a tough time at the moment, they're like, can we send some money to so and so, or how can we support? So I mean, it has been great, but it's never ending. And I think our boys are far worse off than our girls, and the squad's bigger and it's more expensive to play. And now COVID's happening, our two sponsors have pulled out, so we've got a bit of a challenge.
So I know I found you on Instagram. Should people connect with you there, or where's the best way to connect with you?
Yes, come straight to my phone.
Okay.
So just get in touch.
KenyaLax Instagram, KenyaLax. Can we email you as well?
Yeah. Email is KenyaLax@dbasports.com. Instagram is KenyaLax.
KenyaLax. And
sorry, let me just turn that off.
I mentioned volunteering and going over to Kenya, and one of the big parts of that is actually bringing the equipment into the country.
Yeah, that's the main thing, because we have issues with getting equipment because of customs and bribes, unsurprisingly.
How do people get involved with that?
They just message me again, saying that they want to volunteer. Ideally, that's better by email, but it makes no difference. I mean, we've had people, kids from the age of 11. I had an 11-year-old come 3 times last year, and she came out to Canada for the World Cup.
Oh, that's
I had
awesome.
another girl who was supposed to play in the World Cup festival, but she'd come out to Kenya twice already, and she wanted to sacrifice going to play at the festival and watch the Kenyan girls. So instead of that, she sacrificed and came over for the 3 weeks before we left to try and help me with all the visas and passports.
Wow, that's huge.
But in the end, we did actually pay for, not we, like one of my family members paid for her to go over, because she was like, she cannot not go after everything she's done. KenyaLax didn't pay for her to go over, obviously, because we have no money, and we still owe people money for the World Cup. So that's another slight issue. But yeah, if anyone wants to come out. So we had a girl from 11, we've taken up to 27 people. Like 2 years ago, we took 27. My mum comes out every year. She's 74. She's not even remotely sporty. We have guys, girls, sporty, non-sporty, love kids, love Africa. Like, we don't need 15 of the same people, 15 coaches. We need everyone bring something different to the table.
Yeah.
So I'm planning actually on going out in 2 weeks' time, because the borders have just opened. So I really need to go and see the boys for a camp, and then do a road trip around Kenya to catch all the girls. I normally try and organise a lunch or something so I can see them as and when. So that's always quite a fast-tracked trip. But then October half term, Easter next year will be a big one. So if any guys want to come out to form a select team to play our Kenya boys, because they only have Uganda to play. They don't play games week in, week out. Our boys have only played our girls, some of them.
And what age?
Well, it'll be, our boys are under 19, but we can have any kids from any age, from like 12 upwards. Obviously, we wouldn't necessarily let the 12-year-olds play in a game against the boys, but we need everyone and anyone, and like parents come out.
Can I play?
Yes, God,
Right.
Everyone. Honestly, the more people we get, the better. And we want to start our senior program, because obviously it's the Men's World Cup in 2023. We won't have a chance to get our girls there next year because it's just too early, and we've got the Boys World Cup, so we won't get to the Senior World Cup with our women next year. But 2023, we hope to get a really good men's team, because there's a lot of Kenya rugby players out there that want to play lacrosse, and Kenya rugby players are outstanding. So all we have to do is put a stick in their hand, and then they've already got the game awareness and the hand-eye and the fitness, and they're absolute machines. So I mean, watch out 2023. Let's see what Kenya does. But I don't know, we just we don't know what's happening really from one day to the next, because it's all, we'll just go with it.
I mean, that's life, and it sounds like you have great ambition, Storm, and you're up to so many great things and have done so many great things. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me. I know that you've got so many other things to do tonight, so I'll let you get going as well. hopefully we can continue to
Oh
support
yeah,
you.
we can have a part 2 then maybe.
I would love that. Again, this is just the start of my dream of bringing lacrosse to as many people as possible. And it seems like this is such a great avenue to partner with you moving forward and be able to do different campaigns with, as you do your
Yeah.
campaign,
Yeah.
share that on our feeds, continue to bring content, and just continue to talk with other people that are passionate about lacrosse
Yeah.
and try to make a difference. I
Well,
know
that's brilliant.
I know you sent me the video with the Puerto Rican team. Is there anyone else that you think is really great to speak about that's just passionate about growing the game and impacting the youth and, I mean, anyone essentially with lacrosse?
Oh God, there's so many people. You put me on the spot now. My brain is so fried, and I'm just thinking of this. We've got to help one of the Ugandan players. He's having a bit of trouble at the moment, so my brain is a bit fried. But I will think, and I'll get back to you. But Puerto Rico were really great for us. Actually, I can't even tell you how many nations came to the World Cup with presents for our players, like pre-planned, and then like the Australians. We had a great training session with Jen and Trish Adams and their coaches, and had dinner with them, and then the Czechs and the Welsh and the English, and it's just, yeah, crazy. But our kids are amazing. What can I say?
I don't doubt it. From all the videos that I've seen, it was a hoot and a half, and I'm sure it's going to continue to progress. And hopefully, we get a little trip and see you.
Yes.
Over.
Oh my God! All of you come out, please be my guest.
Awesome. Well, again, Storm, thank you so much for your time and connecting. I really appreciate this, and we'll definitely stay in touch.
Brilliant. You're a star. Thanks so much for your support.
My
See
pleasure.
you. And you. Bye.